Welcome back to this mini lecture on Maria Ressa. Nobel Prize winner risks life and liberty to hold the Philippines government to account by Tom Smith. The focus of the article is that the Nobel Committee is proclaiming the value of all journalists who take risks to hold power to account. There are definitely journalistic risks in this complicated and important work, especially in autocracies. Journalists risk to bring the truth in countries where they go against authoritarian governments, and in recognition of that, the Nobel Prize recognized this risk with the 2021 Nobel Prize to Maria Ressa from the Philippines and Dmitry Muratov from Russia. The Nobel Peace Prize has a statement on journalistic values. They stated that Ressa and Muratov are, quote, representatives of all journalists who stand up for this ideal, and this ideal being the fight for truth against autocracies. Maria Ressa works for the Rappler, and they specifically said, the Rappler being her online news organization, that it's helped expose abuse of power, use of violence, and growing authoritarianism in her native country, the Philippines. So those of you who don't know, there's been mixed reaction to the Rappler depending on your role in society. It is a Philippine independent news organization. It grew out of a Facebook page launched in 2012. It became one of the Philippines' most credible independent news services, and President Rodrigo Duterte targeted it since the 2016 election. So there's been a prolonged opposition to it. Even in his 2017 State of the Union speech, he specifically spoke about it. Duterte alleged that Rappler was in foreign ownership, and this alleged foreign ownership could be contrary to the Philippine Constitution, and he claimed that the Rappler peddled fake news, which is a phrase often used by governments who don't like the news provided in their countries. The Philippine government specifically went after Rappler, and by the year 2018, Ressa and the Rappler were flooded with a variety of charges, such as cybercrime and tax evasion, and just general intimidation by the Duterte government. As a bigger context, President Duterte had a war on drugs, and the Rappler's harassment took place against this backdrop of presidentially sanctioned war on drugs. The ICC investigated the drug war, and it found that it led to deaths of over 20,000 people, including journalists. However, Ressa was not deterred by this intimidation and threats. She has received international recognition from a variety of organizations, including the Democracy Award, Knight Award, World Association Award, Committee to Protect Journalists Award, and a Time magazine. She was recognized as a Person of the Year in 2018. So again, her work has been celebrated across the world. For this work, she has been imprisoned, and she was arrested for the first time in 2019. She even spent a night in prison, which was a low for Philippine civil society. Ressa and the Rappler and her colleagues have been under the threat of imprisonment for quite a while. Ideally, the Nobel Prize provides some protection, which leads to some questions. Will, in fact, the Nobel Peace Prize shield Ressa and the Rappler from further targeting? And will the May 2022 election bring relief from government harassment and threats? Ressa's professional background, again, she has a pretty established figure in Filipino public life. She worked for the CNN as bureau chief in the Philippines. Later was an investigative reporter for CNN and focused on terrorism in Southeast Asia post 9/11. She has garnered public support from across the world. She's received both attention and condemnation from leading global figures and organizations. Unfortunately, there's been continued attacks on journalists. The Duterte government has continued to stifle dissent and attack less prominent journalists than Ressa and the Rappler in Philippines provinces. As a result, journalists continue to investigate corruption and violence under the threat of violence and intimidation, despite these attacks. Again, in terms of hopefully the Peace Prize provides some protection. First, it could ideally pressure presidential candidates in the 2022 election to speak on press freedom and make it a campaign issue. As well, foreign governments can calibrate their new foreign relations with the next administration with the symbol to rally around, the symbol being the Peace Prize. Finally, the conclusion, this Nobel Peace Prize for Ressa and Muratov, ideally by rewarding both of these brave journalists, it affirms the value of their work and of all journalists who risk to hold the power to account across the globe on authoritarian countries. That was Maria Ressa. Nobel Prize winner risks life and liberty to hold Philippines government to account by Tom Smith. Again, the big takeaway is that the Nobel Committee is proclaiming the value of all journalists who take risks to hold power to account. Thanks for watching.